The Ghost in the Genealogy. How Kainan Revived the Post-Flood Cosmic Rebellion. Introduction. The Great Reset that wasn't. The Great Flood was supposed to be a flawless hard reset. The Book of Genesis, 1 Enoch, and the Book of Jubilees all agree that the world before Noah had devolved into an absolute nightmare of cosmic rebellion. Fallen angels, the Watchers, had breached the boundaries of heaven, breeding monstrous hybrids, the Nephilim, and teaching humanity forbidden dark arts. 1 Enoch 7-8. God sent a global deluge to wash it all away, drowning the wicked and burying their sins deep beneath the earth. Noah and his sons stepped off the ark onto a physically pristine planet. Yet, within just a few generations, the same ancient spiritual rot crept back into humanity. How did the forbidden knowledge of a drowned world survive the floodwaters? The answer lies hidden in a mysterious, erased biblical character. Kainan, the son of Arphaxad. Jubilees 8:1-5. He acts as the literal intellectual bridge between the pre-flood sorcery of the Watchers and the post-flood spiritual rebellion of mankind. Jubilees 8:3.
Section 1. Who is Kainan, the Scriptorian whodunit? To understand Kainan, we must first address why most modern readers have never heard his name. If you open a standard modern Bible based on the Hebrew Masoretic text, Genesis 11 verse 12 states that Arphaxad fathered Shelah. Kainan does not exist. However, if you open the Gospel of Luke in the New Testament, a bizarre discrepancy appears. In tracing the direct ancestry of Jesus Christ, Luke writes, "The son of Shelah, the son of Kainan, the son of Arphaxad," Luke 3 verse 36. Why is Kainan in the New Testament, but missing from the Hebrew Old Testament? Luke was quoting from the Septuagint, the ancient Greek translation of the Old Testament. Historical evidence in the Book of Jubilees suggests a startling reason for his omission from the Hebrew text: scribal erasure. Kainan belonged to the holy, chosen line of Shem, the exact lineage leading to Abraham, David, and the Messiah. Yet, Kainan committed an act of spiritual treason so deeply embarrassing to later Jewish scribes that they textually exiled him from Genesis 11, jumping straight from his father to son to keep the messianic bloodline appearing unpolluted.
Section 2. The Discovery on the Rock. The Spiritual Infection Returns. The Book of Jubilees, Chapter 8, fills in the dark details of Kainan's life that the scribes tried to bury. Kainan was highly educated. His father Arphaxad taught him the art of writing. Jubilees 8:1. While wandering the post-flood landscape looking for a place to establish a city, Kainan stumbled upon an ancient rock inscription carved by the pre-flood generations. Jubilees 8:1-3. And he found writing which former generations had carved on the rock, and he read what was thereon, and he transcribed it and sinned owing to it, for it contained the teaching of the Watchers in accordance with which they used to observe the omens of the sun and moon and stars in all the signs of heaven. Jubilees 8:3. Kainan knew this material was radioactive. Knowing that his grandfather Noah would be furious that the very sins which caused the global flood had been dug up, Kainan copied the text in secret and hid it from his family. Jubilees 8:4. He became the world's first post-flood astroarchaeologist, unearthing the dark systemic blueprint of the Watchers. Jubilees 8:3.
Section 3. The Great Confusion. Kainan versus Kainan. Because their names look and sound nearly identical in ancient Greek translations, Kainan versus Kainan, casual readers frequently confuse Kainan with Kainan, the son of Ham. However, they represent two entirely distinct branches of Noah's tree and two different styles of rebellion. Kainan, the thief, belongs to the Hamitic line. His sin was geopolitical and physical. When Noah divided the earth by a sacred oath, Kainan violently stole the land of Lebanon/Israel, which had been allotted to Shem. Jubilees 10:29-34. He corrupted human borders. Kainan, the scholar, belongs to the holy Semitic line. His sin was intellectual and spiritual. He resurrected the forbidden celestial codes of the fallen angels. Jubilees 8:3. He corrupted human minds. The grand tapestry, the revival of pre-flood sins. Kainan did not act in a vacuum. He is part of a larger pattern in Jubilees where Noah's descendants. Event 1. The bloodline corruption, Ham and Noah's vineyard. Right after the flood, Noah plants a vineyard, gets drunk, and lies uncovered in his tent, Jubilees 7. Ham sees his father's nakedness and mocks him. This mirrors the pre-flood breakdown of familial order, respect, and sexual boundaries that the Watchers introduced. It proves that the inclination towards sin survived the flood inside human hearts. Event 2. Kainan's sin, intellectual rebellion. While the earth is physically clean, Kainan digs up the intellectual blueprint of the old world 8:3. By copying the Watcher's astrology and omens, he ensures that the demonic spiritual system survives 8:3. He acts as the spiritual bridge, passing the forbidden arts of the drowned giants directly to the new generation. Event 3. Canaan's land theft, spatial rebellion. In Jubilees 10, Noah distributes the earth to his sons via a sacred angelic oath. Kainan is given land in Africa, but looks at Shem's beautiful territory in the Middle East and violently seizes it instead 10:29-34. This lawlessness and violent land grabbing perfectly mirror the pre-flood Nephilim giants, who took whatever they wanted by brute force. Why what Kainan did is spiritually significant. The flood wiped out the physical bodies of Nephilim and the wicked, but it did not wipe out their ideas. Ideas are ghosts that survive deep waters if they are carved into stone. By reading, copying, and hiding those rock inscriptions from Noah, Kainan committed an act of cosmic treason. Jubilees 8:3-4. He allowed the spiritual infection of the Watchers to mutate and survive into the post-flood world, setting the stage for the Tower of Babel, the rise of pagan idolatry, and the ongoing spiritual warfare that Moses and the prophets would have to fight centuries later. Systematically reopen the doors to the dark forces of the pre-flood era.
Section 4. The Cosmic Loophole. Prince Mastema and the 10% Clause. To understand how Kainan's academic discovery grew from a hidden personal sin into a global spiritual pandemic, it helps to look at a cosmic event that unfolded right alongside it. In Jubilees chapter 10, the narrative shifts from the human timeline to a courtroom drama in the spiritual realm. The disembodied spirits of the drowned Nephilim, now functioning as earthbound demons, began attacking Noah's grandchildren, driving the new generation toward moral collapse and blinding them to the Creator. Jubilees 10:1-2. Distraught at the sight of his family unraveling, Noah offered a desperate prayer. And do thou bless me and my sons, and let us grow and multiply and replenish the earth, and bind the spirits which are malignant, and let them not have power over the sons of thy servant, for these are malignant, and created in order to destroy. Jubilees 10:3-5. God heard Noah's prayer and commanded his angels to gather the demonic spirits and lock them away in the depth of judgment. Jubilees 10:7. But just as the gates of the abyss were about to close, a powerful adversary stepped forward to object. Prince Mastema, the Jubilees name for Satan, chief of the adversarial spirits, Jubilees 10:8. Mastema petitioned God with a chilling legal argument. Lord Creator, let some of them remain before me, and let them hearken to my voice, and do all that I shall say unto them. For if some of them are not left to me, I shall not be able to execute the power of my will on the sons of men. For these are for corruption and leading astray before my judgment, for great is the wickedness of the sons of men. Jubilees 10:8. God granted Mastema's request in a divine compromise. 90% of the demons were bound in the place of condemnation, while 10% remained active under Mastema's authority, serving as a crucible of temptation for humanity. Jubilees 10:9. The symbiotic trap. Text meets spirit. Jubilees never says Kainan caused Mastema's intervention, and the two events are not presented as cause and effect. But their chronological proximity, back to back in the post-flood narrative, is striking. Kainan supplied the blueprint. He unearthed the written record of the Watcher's astrology and omens, Jubilees 8:3. The raw material, Mastema supplied the engine. God granted his 10% of demons standing authority to roam the earth and test human hearts, Jubilees 10:8-9. The active power. Information carved into a rock is inert on its own. But paired with a newly authorized population of roaming spirits, Watcher astrology now had both a text to teach from and an audience already searching the heavens for meaning. Read together, Kainan's hidden transcription and Mastema's legal foothold form the interface through which the drowned world's corruption re-entered the new one.
Section 5. Deep Dive. Astronomy, Astrology, and the War for the Stars. Kainan introduces a profound theological question. When does looking at the sky shift from an act of holy worship into demonic rebellion? Part 1. The framework at a glance. 1. The holy architecture, astronomy. In Genesis 1 verse 14, God states that the sun, moon, and stars were created to serve as signs to mark sacred times, emon. God designed the cosmos as a passive, clockwork calendar to help humanity navigate the earth and track his holy feast days. Astronomy is the moral study of this physical architecture, praising the Creator through his creation, Psalm 19 verse 1. 2. The hijacked matrix, astrology. The sin of the Watchers, and subsequently Kainan, was teaching humanity that the stars were not passive clocks, but active spiritual entities that dictated human destiny. 1 Enoch 8:3, Jubilees 8:3. Astrology shifts dependency away from the Creator and places it onto the creation. Jeremiah 10 verse 2. This is an attempt at human autonomy. Prayer requires faith, vulnerability, and submitting to God's sovereign will. Astrology offers a transaction. If you can decode the Watcher's celestial grid, you can predict your own future, bypass suffering, and master your life without ever needing a relationship with God. To prevent this spiritual poisoning, God erected strict firewalls in the 613 Laws of Moses, placing observers of times, astrologers, in the same forbidden category as witches and necromancers. Deuteronomy 18 verses 10 to 12. 3. Modern trends. The digital resurgence of Kainan's sin. This ancient conflict is not a relic of antiquity. It is thriving today. We are currently witnessing a massive secular renaissance of astrology via viral apps, birth chart algorithms, and social media. Modern users view astrology as harmless entertainment or psychological shorthand. I'm toxic because I'm a Scorpio. Yet, the theological danger remains identical to Kainan's day. It replaces free will, personal repentance, and divine providence with a secular form of cosmic determinism. It is a subtle bypass of God, using creation to justify our flaws rather than seeking the Creator for transformation.
Part 2. The full theological deep dive. With the framework sketched out, it's worth slowing down and walking through the primary texts and historical record in full, because the case for where the line falls is stronger than a quick summary can show. 4. The theology of the cosmos. Signs versus sorcery. The distinction between looking at the heavens as an act of worship and using them for divination forms a foundational conflict in biblical and pseudepigraphal texts. God created the cosmos with an intended purpose, but early human history, influenced by angelic rebellion, twisted that purpose into a tool for cosmic manipulation. The intended design, the calendar of God. In Genesis, the creation of celestial bodies establishes a clear, practical, and liturgical framework. And God said, "Let there be lights in the vault of the sky to separate the day from the night, and let them serve as signs to mark sacred times and days and years." Genesis 1 verse 14. The Hebrew word for signs here is meaning markers or signals, and sacred times is mom, which strictly refers to appointed religious feasts and assemblies. Astronomy is the observation of this orderly, clockwork architecture. It allows humanity to keep time, navigate the earth, and calculate agricultural cycles that in this framework, the heavens possess no independent will, power, or divine consciousness. They are a canvas displaying the glory of the Creator, Psalm 19 verse 1. 5. The corruption, the interception of the Watchers. The Book of 1 Enoch details how this orderly system was hijacked. According to Enoch, a group of rebellious angels, the Watchers, descended to earth and traded heavenly secrets for human marriages. And Barakhijal taught astrology, and Kokabel the constellations, and Ezekiel the knowledge of the clouds, and Arakiel the signs of the earth, and Shamsiel the signs of the sun, and Serial the course of the moon. 1 Enoch 8:3. This introduction marks the birth of astrology. The sin of the Watchers was not teaching humanity how the physical universe functions, but teaching that the stars, moon, and sun possess spiritual agency over human destiny. Instead of treating the cosmos as a passive clock built by God, astrology teaches that the positions of celestial bodies actively dictate human personality, political shifts, and personal fortunes. Drawing the line, when does observation become sin? Scripture and historical texts establish a definitive line where healthy cosmic appreciation crosses into spiritual rebellion. 1. Shifting sovereignty from creator to creation. Observation becomes wrong the moment a person attributes an outcome to the star rather than the God who sustains it. Jeremiah warns against fearing the celestial charts that pagan nations panicked over. Do not learn the ways of the nations or be terrified by signs in the sky, though the nations are terrified by them. Jeremiah 10 verse 2. 2. The desire for forbidden autonomy. The core of the sin is the human desire to bypass relationship with God to gain security or power. Prayer requires faith, submission, and waiting on God's will. Astrology offers a transaction. If you can decode the system, you can predict your future, dodge suffering, and master your life without ever having to submit to a sovereign creator. The law of Moses established zero-tolerance firewalls against this mindset, classifying observers of times, astrologers, alongside sorcerers and necromancers, Deuteronomy 18 verses 10 to 12. Cultural evolution, history to modern trends. The tension between astronomy and astrology has mutated across eras, yet the underlying human desire remains identical. Ancient Mesopotamian and Egyptian culture. In the ancient Near East, astrology was an elite, imperial science. Kings did not make military moves without consulting court astrologers. The stars were viewed as the literal bodies of the gods. That an eclipse was not an orbital shadow, it was an omen that a deity was angry and a king might die. Humanity was trapped in a deterministic loop dictated by the sky. The Middle Ages and the scientific revolution. For centuries, astronomy and astrology were treated as two sides of the same coin. Early scientists like Johannes Kepler and Galileo Galilei calculated planetary orbits, astronomy, while simultaneously casting horoscopes for wealthy patrons to fund their work. The definitive split occurred during the Enlightenment, which stripped spiritual meaning from the sky entirely, reducing the cosmos to dead matter governed by physics, connecting the deep dive back to Kainan. This theological, historical, and cultural analysis provides the perfect framework to reintroduce Kainan, the son of Arphaxad, as the ultimate cautionary tale. Kainan as the first post-flood astroarchaeologist. In the Book of Jubilees, Kainan's discovery of the rock inscription is not an innocent academic find, 8:3. It represents the survival of the exact system of cosmic rebellion that the Great Flood was sent to wash away. And he found writing which former generations had carved on the rock, and he transcribed it and sinned owing to it, for it contained the teaching of the watchers in accordance with which they used to observe the omens of the sun and moon and stars, Jubilees 8-3. Kainan became the portal through which pre-flood demonic astrology re-entered the New World.
Section 6. The Magi Paradox. Did God use astrology for Jesus? If stargazing is so heavily condemned throughout Scripture, how do we explain the ultimate theological plot twist? Why did God use a star to guide the Magi, wise men/astrologers of the East, directly to the infant Jesus? Theology offers three compelling perspectives on this controversy. The sovereign overrule. God met the pagan Magi in a linguistic error. He hijacked their flawed astrological tools to draw them out of darkness and into the presence of true light, proving Christ rules over the corrupted pagan sky. The Daniel connection. The Magi weren't practicing random astrology. As wise men from Babylon, they likely possessed the historical records of the Hebrew prophet Daniel, who had been appointed chief of the wise men centuries prior. They were reading biblical prophecy, not standard zodiac signs. The Luciferian trap. A darker historical view suggests the star was a deceptive marker from the enemy. It notably did not lead the Magi straight to Bethlehem. It led them to the murderous King Herod, triggering the slaughter of the innocents. God had intervened via a dream to correct their course and save the child.
Section 7. The Chaldean Culmination. Abraham breaks the chain. If Canaan's hidden transcription was the seed, and Mastema's 10% demonic allowance was the water, then the ancient empire of the Chaldeans was the full, poisonous harvest. Jubilees 8:3. 10:9, 11:7-8. In ancient history, the term Chaldean was practically synonymous with astrologer. The Chaldeans, stationed in cities like Babylon and Ur, built massive ziggurats to map the zodiac, mapping their entire civilization around the celestial omens of the Watchers. The Book of Jubilees explicitly links this cultural explosion of star worship to the lineage of Shem. Jubilees 11:1-8. By chapter 11, the text notes that the descendants of Noah began building cities, and the spirits of Mastema led them into deep deception. 11:4-5. Specifically, the text states, "And Ur, the son of Kest, built the city of Era of the Chaldees, and they made for themselves molten images, and they worshipped each the idol, and they began to make graven images and unclean simulacra, and malignant spirits assisted and seduced them into committing transgression and uncleanness." Jubilees 11:3-4. The lineage of the astrologers. This was not a foreign contagion. It was a family affair. Terah, the father of Abraham, was a wealthy citizen of Ur of the Chaldeans. Genesis 11:31. Jubilees 11:6. Terah was not just a passive citizen. Ancient traditions paint him as a master craftsman of household gods and an elite practitioner of Chaldean star divination. Jubilees 11:7-8, 12:1-2. For generations, the lineage of Shem had been compromised. The secret knowledge that Kainan had quietly copied onto papyrus had blossomed into an imperial system of idol-making and horoscope casting inside Abraham's own childhood home. Jubilees 8:3, 11:7-8. Abraham's defiance. Smashed idols and a new horizon. This historical backdrop transforms Genesis 12 from a simple travel story into a monumental act of cosmic war. Abraham represents the definitive, explosive break from the legacy of Kainan. In Jubilees 12, a young Abraham confronts his father Terah about the futility of worshipping stars and wooden statues, asking why they bow to things that have no power. 12:1-2. When Terah warns him to stay quiet for his own safety, Abraham takes radical action. In the middle of the night, Abraham sets fire to his father's idol temple. Jubilees 12:12-14. Later, sitting under the night sky of Chaldea, Abraham begins to look at the stars, tempted to read them for omens regarding his future rain and crops, just as his ancestors had done. Jubilees 12:16. But a word from God disrupts him. And a word came into his heart, and he said, "All the signs of the stars and the signs of the moon and of the sun are all in the hand of the Lord. Why should I search them out? If he desires, he causes it to rain morning and evening, and if he desires, he withholds it, and all things are in his hand." Jubilees 12:17-18. Directly after this realization, this total rejection of Chaldean astrology, God commands Abraham to leave his country, his family, and his father's house. Genesis 12:1, Jubilees 12:22-24. God wipes his slate clean, even miraculously restoring the original Hebrew language to Abraham so he can study holy wisdom rather than the corrupted language of the Chaldean stargazers. Jubilees 12:25-27. By walking away from Ur, Abraham didn't just move across a map. Genesis 11:31. He was physically walking out of the systemic trap that Kainan had unlocked centuries prior. Jubilees 8:3. He chose dependency on the invisible voice of the Creator over the visible, glowing map of the creation.
Conclusion. Ideas are ghosts that do not drown. The tragedy of Kainan is a sobering reminder of the nature of sin. Jubilees 8:1-5. The Great Flood successfully wiped out the physical bodies of the wicked and the Nephilim, but it could not drown their ideas. Ideas are ghosts that survive deep waters if they are carved into stone. By copying and hiding the Watcher's astrology, Kainan allowed a demonic spiritual infection to leak into the post-flood world, setting the stage for the Tower of Babel and centuries of idolatry. Jubilees 8:3-4. His story stands as a timeless warning. Whenever we try to bypass the Creator to unlock the secrets of our future, we are simply digging up the same ruins that once brought down the judgment of the heavens.